Well, Mercy, happy Thanksgiving. Before I start preaching, we're going to hear a wonderful testimony. This is the testimony by Taras. He went through something that was really hard in his life, but something that our church got to be with him throughout the whole process and see the outcome and the results. Taras, welcome you. Let's give him a big hand. Very cool to do this.
Hello. Thanks, Eugene. Okay, so there's quite a few more of you here than there was during Mercy Night, so the pressure is definitely on. But I'd like for us to start off by looking at this passage together. It's from Jeremiah 30:17. I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. This is a scripture that my wife was praying over me for a few months this year while I was going through the most horrific midlife crisis, which I never imagined myself being in the middle of. So hi everyone, my name is Taras. You can also refer to me as Taras if you want to get all Ukrainian on me. I immigrated to the United States when I was 11. I'm 40 years old now, so that was a while back. And guess what? I'm supposed to be dead right now, but by God's grace, I'm here to share my story with you all. So I'd like to start by painting a picture of my life as it was last year. I was 39 years old. I've been married to my beautiful wife, Oksana, for 15 years. She's right there. She's the love of my life and the greatest blessing that's ever happened to me. We have our 6-year-old son, Evan. He's amazing. He's brilliant. He just skipped first grade because he's so smart. I got my dream car, Noah's Ark. I'm a total nerd, no shame. I have a big house of 15 years. We traveled half of the world together, and I had a successful career of 20 years, and I worked my way up to a senior designer position at a Fortune 500 company. So looks like the perfect life after 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears. And you'll see how all of that almost fell apart this year. Also, for those of you who have known me for any length of time, know that I'm a huge fitness enthusiast. For the past 20 years, I've been consistently weight training. For the past 7 years, I've been into running. I've done everything from obstacle course races to marathons to doing hundreds of push-up burpees at a giving campaign at my work to raise thousands of dollars for charity. So I refer to myself as an endurance athlete, meaning that I pushed myself to my limits and then I pushed even further just to see how far I can take it. So I was definitely a thrill seeker when it came to fitness. So September of last year was bonus season at my work, and I got my biggest bonus to date because of my excellent performance. I already had, like I showed you, everything that I could have ever wanted and then some, so I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I got myself this. This is known as a one-wheel. It is considered to be the world's deadliest electric vehicle. And I'm sure that most of you, when you look at this thing, you're like, I wouldn't get anywhere close to that. But for me, I was like, I'm all about this thing. Yeah, bring on the adrenaline. So I get the one wheel. I go over to my buddy's house, my snowboarding friend. One idiot encourages another idiot to be a total idiot. 30 minutes later, I'm in the emergency room with type 3 AC separation. So what happened was, the board did a nosedive, threw me off at 10 miles an hour. I couldn't outrun the fall. I landed on my left shoulder, heard all the ligaments tear, and I ripped my collarbone straight out of my shoulder. I eventually healed up, and I hopped back on the board and put 400 miles on it, and I have to say that was the best electric skateboarding experience I've ever had, but I eventually got rid of the thing, which was probably smart. In December of last year, because I'm a perfectionist and I couldn't stand the giant hump on my left shoulder, I did something even probably stupider. I found the first orthopedic surgeon that was referred to me and had him pull a 12-inch ligament out of my left leg, use that as a graft to fasten the collarbone down into place to get the bump out of the way, And the gentleman also chopped off a piece of my bone without telling me until after the surgery. So in the following 2-3 months, the entire surgery completely fell apart. My deltoid slid down out of place because I jumped into my exercising again way too soon. The graft completely separated, and I was in a ton of excruciating pain by about April. So I'm going to pause on this slide for a little bit. So I didn't know about this before, but going through that much pain and discomfort can affect your mental state. I had no idea these things work this way, but I got to experience it firsthand. So around April, very strange things started happening to me, and I made a list of it so I don't forget. So at first, I lost my ability to sleep. I started developing insomnia. Then I completely lost my ability to work. My last conversation with my manager, I could barely piece a few sentences together, so she saw that something was wrong. She immediately sent mental health resources over to me, which got me started on that journey. I started developing this severe depression, not the kind where you get moody when the sky is gray or when your latte isn't made right, but the kind that completely erases your mind and disables you in almost every way. I lost all my reasoning and logic. At one point, I had my 6-year-old son making decisions for me because I would just stare into space and not know what to do with myself. I started having all kinds of strange behavior, like trying to run away from home, trying to cut myself with sharp objects, trying to hop in my car and drive off to nowhere. Depression does that to the mind, and it's very scary. I had no idea about these things. I lost all my feelings and emotions. I would look at my son and my wife, and I felt absolutely nothing. It was horrifying because I just saw them as, regular people. I lost my interest in everything. I stopped reading, I stopped watching TV, stopped playing video games, stopped listening to music, all the things that I really love to do on a daily basis. I lost all of my creative abilities, which was very frightening because that's something that I've had my entire life. I always took it as a given, and it's something that fueled my career of 20 years, so I couldn't do that any longer. I developed major anxiety. Because of the anxiety, I started getting severe constipation to where I was pooping rocks for several months. Sorry, TMI on that one. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Started having excessive perspiration where I was just sweating for absolutely no reason. Because of that, I was also constantly dehydrated. I couldn't keep liquids in me for more than 10 minutes. I completely lost my appetite. At one point, I was trying to starve myself. I dropped down to 147 pounds, and it took my wife and my mom to forcefully feed me just to keep me alive. I was having random muscle spasms throughout my legs, and because of the depression, I was experiencing a lot of dizziness. So what is all this? What was it caused by? So there's a thing which I learned about while this was happening. I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD for short. And in case you didn't know, which I didn't, PTSD affects 8% of Americans. I never imagined that I would be a part of that statistic. It is not exclusive to just war veterans, contrary to popular belief. And PTSD, to my knowledge, has the highest rate of suicide. So in April, when all of this started hitting me, that's when the suicidal ideation began. Every time I had a gun, every time I would close my eyes, all I could imagine was popping myself in the head with the firearm. So I immediately handed that over to my dad and said, "You better hold on to this, it's not safe with me." Had I not done that, I would not be on this stage right now talking to you all. Over the course of between April and September, my family and I, we pretty much tried every single possible solution that we could think of. Nobody had any idea what was happening to me. Mental illness was never a part of our family history. So we tried tons of medications, one medication to fall asleep, another medication to stay asleep, 4 different kinds of antidepressants, psychiatrists, therapists, everything you can think of. We tried, nothing was helping. And I was, every single month, gradually getting worse. I ended up in the ER 5 times. I was voluntarily hospitalized halfway through this for 9 days. That did absolutely nothing. I just kept getting worse. So in April, I was still able to go outside and do some running. In June, I was able to go out and do some walking. And close to September, I was so bad that I could not get myself out of bed. So in September was 1 year anniversary of my injury. And at that point, I have suffered so much that I said, okay, enough is enough. I can't tolerate this anymore. So I decided to take my own life. And I decided that, I'm already living through hell. I might as well end my life and be in hell for all eternity, but at least I'll give my family a break because they at least deserve that. So September, 1 year anniversary, I tried doing some things to myself in the garage, which I'm not even going to mention right now. But I couldn't go through with it because it was so difficult. Taking your own life is not an easy thing to do. And after having a bunch of marks all over my neck, that's something I did not want to explain to my wife. So I wrote a goodbye letter on my workbench. I went over into the kitchen. I pulled out all the medications that were prescribed to me, took a giant handful of them, and I remember standing there saying, God, it was good while it lasted. And then I just started swallowing pills and drinking cold medication, and then flushing all of that down with wine, which my wife was using for cooking. So after swallowing about 70 pills, 40 of which were sleeping pills, everything blacked out, and I passed out in the kitchen floor. Because one of my family members had to watch me at all times, my mom kept calling because I was supposed to be at her house, and I wasn't answering the phone, so she rushed over to my house, came in, she had the key, found me passed out on the kitchen floor, immediately called 911. 2 police cars, a fire truck, and a ambulance, thank you, showed up, and they started pulling me out of the house. At the same time, Oksana, being at work, turned on our security camera, and they saw them dragging my body out of the house, and she thought that was the last time that she would ever see me. The end. Thank you all for listening. Happy Thanksgiving. Obviously, I'm joking because your boy is still standing here, so there's more to the story. So I wake up, I don't know, maybe a day and a half later. I honestly have no idea how long I was out. I'm sitting in my own pee because the tube slipped off or whatever happened, I don't know. Everything is completely dark, and through the haze and the fogginess, all I can say is I didn't swallow enough pills. I was so angry at myself for, number one, not killing myself, and number two, for my mom saving my life. But I spent a couple of days in the ER, and then I involuntarily was transferred to a psychiatric unit at Auburn Multicare for what was supposed to be a 3-week treatment, or until they would give me a release date. For 9 days, I was in that unit, not getting out of bed, barely eating, not talking to anyone, just completely hopeless. And again, going through the same suffering. The doctors, the nurses were watching me on every day, and then this is where God's grace started coming into my life. With the right adjustment of medications, on the 9th day, I got a little bit of mental clarity during an evening, and I was like, okay, I haven't felt like this in months. This can't be right. It's going to be gone by tomorrow. I wake up the following day, it gets a little bit better, and I'm like, wow, amazing. So I start doing my workouts right in the middle of the hallway, Following day, I wake up, I feel a little bit better, so I started doing my stretching as well. The following day, feeling better again, so I started doing my cold showers. So I recovered so quickly, I got out of the unit 3 days ahead of schedule, and I did not have to attend mental health court, which was required to begin with. And here I am now. So now I can go to the next one. 5 things I want to share with you that I learned throughout this experience. Sorry, I'm losing my notes. This is something one of the nurses told me while I was at the psychiatric unit. It really stuck with me, that mental illness does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, if you're rich or poor, or black or white, or Christian or not. You know, we're all human. Trauma can strike anyone in many different ways at any point. So, you know, just a heads up, this is something to be mindful of. And I feel like mental illness needs to be talked about more in the church. And I have so much respect for Pastor Eugene because of the 15 years that I've been in the church, he's the first person who did a full sermon on depression. And I was sitting right there in that front row in the middle of my depression, trying to make sense of that sermon through the mental fog to try to figure out how I can help myself. So thank you, Eugene, for doing that. God's grace was there during the suffering. So my mom, thank God for my mom, she helped me to set up my disability at work, meaning that I was, you know, laying in bed, barely getting out, barely doing anything, and I was still getting paid, and I was able to pay the bills and provide for my family in a way. I also had excellent health insurance through my work, and throughout those 6 months, I had over 100 medical claims that were all paid for, minus the the $3,000 deductible that I paid at the very beginning. That's God's grace right there. My parents, both being in the medical field, found one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the country in Swedish in Seattle, who repaired my shoulder, got all the scar tissue out, got the graft out, and put in the artificial strap to get the bone back into place, which feels a lot better now. God's grace. My family, they took such an amazing care of me. My mom drove, countless miles to get me to all of these appointments that we went through. That was God's grace working through them. And my 6-year-old son, he knew that I was sick, but he didn't know why. Actually, a lot of adults didn't either. But through this time, he wrote me encouraging love letters, which said, "Dad, you're so amazing. When you feel better, I want to play soccer with you. Dad, you're the best dad in the world. I love you." Meanwhile, Dad was laying in bed and couldn't get himself out to go play with his kid. I mean, that was God's grace, and that's what kept me going for as long as it did. Community really does matter. This is something that my wife has been beating into my head for years. She always said that when you die, all of your accomplishments, all of your achievements, all of your money, it's not going to be there for you. It's going to be the people who you influence during your lifetime. And that was exactly right. I was supposed to die, this year, and it was the people that came to my rescue and helped to get me through this. And Mercy Church, like so many of you were praying for me and praying with Oksana during this difficult time that we were going through, and actually multiple churches were praying for my situation, so I am very grateful for that. And again, Pastor Eugene, we live in the same neighborhood. He visited me multiple times. Last time he came over to see me a couple of months ago, I was so bad that I couldn't even get myself out of a beanbag to go greet him at the door, and yet he was sitting there and trying to encourage me, reading the Bible to me, praying over me. I'm so grateful to have that kind of community and that kind of a pastor that we have. The smallest things in life are a gift. Like I said, I had many gifts and I completely lost everything this year, and I was just watching my life, my whole world fall apart right before my eyes. So when I finally when I got out of the hospital, I got well, I got home, and for example, I sat in front of the computer and I was able to get some creative ideation out on the computer screen. I was filled with so much joy that I was down with my face in the floor, just crying my eyes out, thanking God for those small gifts. I got my feelings and emotions back, everything that I feel towards my family, my friends. It's just such a great value to me now. So my challenge to all of you as you go throughout your day, today or this week, is think about those small things that you might be taking for granted that are there, like, being able to eat like a normal person. That's a gift. Enjoy it. Being able to hug and love on your loved one, that's a gift. Enjoy that moment. Being able to hear the amazing worship music that we have here at the church, enjoy that moment and those tunes, that's a gift. Be thankful for that. And lastly, the fact that I'm here, it is a miracle. Because when I landed in the psychiatric unit, the doctor who was watching me on a daily basis, he said that had I not been so healthy to begin with, there's no way I would have survived, swallowing that many medications. Yeah. And my dad and I, we were talking about this a few weeks back over dinner, and we've determined that this is actually the 5th time that God saved me from death, and this was by far the most severe. So my existence is a miracle. I have a purpose in life, obviously, just like all of you do. And if you all have any questions about any of the topics covered, or challenges or anything, or if you'd like me to encourage you or pray for you in any way, please see me in the lobby after the service. I'd love to help in any way that I can. And that is my story. Thank you.